Hey, Clara here. Before we jump into this really special live episode of She Made It at the Spicy Olive, I wanted to tell you about something really exciting that's been going on. Elle is offering 30-minute totally free discovery calls for any of you who are looking to step into something creative or entrepreneurial but aren't really sure what that next step is. This discovery call will be a great opportunity for you to bounce your idea off of Elle and see how maybe she could help. If you want to schedule that call, just go to Calendly, that's calendly.com/L Zimmerman. And without further ado, let's jump into this live episode.
So welcome to She Made It Live. Today we are at the Spicy Olive with founder and owner Melanie Cedargren, and we have been spending the last hour learning about the incredible healing power of olive oil.
Yeah, it was amazing to hear Melanie talk about it, and I know she'll share a little bit of what she shared earlier about the health benefits of olive oil. I didn't know half of what she said, probably more than that, but it was really fun. And then we actually got to taste test too. Elle, did you try anything?
I did. I went for all the spicy olives. Oh, interesting.
That's so fitting.
I didn't even think about that. There is a purpose to the name. But no, I love spice. So
Yes.
I was thinking about when I cook, how I could add that in through the olive oil. So I tried cayenne and I think it's harissa. We'll learn more about if I said that right.
Yeah, I love the olive oils, but I love the balsamic vinegars even more because I'm the kind of girl who would drink salad dressing. I love it so much.
Especially when we heard there was a chocolate-flavored one.
That's the one I went for first.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun to learn and taste test in this beautiful location that Melanie has. And I'm really excited for us to tune in and hear more of Melanie's story. But before that, do you want to share how you and Melanie met?
Yeah, so Melanie was a participant in the Aviatra Accelerators program, which is like a startup. It's like a business development incubator program for women entrepreneurs. Melanie was in the advanced level, I guess you could say, where these are already existing business owners who are looking to expand and elevate what they do with their business. So she was one of the students, and I came in to teach pitch, how to present your pitch to investors, to customers. So we worked together. Now, Melanie is already extremely polished. She does a lot of work on the news, represents her company through classes. So she didn't need much of my help. She already had it going on. But I got to learn about her and her company, and then stopped in one evening with my daughter and saw the lovely location and thought, wow, this could be really a fantastic way to share what she's doing with my listeners and then learn more about Melanie.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear her story and for everyone here to get to hear it as well. So let's welcome Melanie Cedargren.
Woohoo! Well, welcome, Melanie.
Well, hello. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah, this is great. This is really special because we hear so much about the importance of olive oil and disease fighting and anti-inflammatory disorders and how food can heal us, but there's so much information out there that we just get overwhelmed and confused.
Yes.
And so we learned, why don't you, I know we did a class right before this, but for those who are listening, our listening audience, could you give us sort of a quick overview of the value and benefits of olive oil?
Sure. Olive oil is pretty amazing. It's kind of a super food, but it's full of things called biophenols, and biophenols fight inflammation naturally in the body. They also lower cholesterol levels. They make your bad cholesterol lower and your good cholesterol higher. And then they also help with lowering your blood pressure. They can help with weight gain, which it's a fat. People are always surprised by that, but it does help people lose weight. So it's really amazing in many, many ways.
Yeah, and you, what I really want to dig into today during the podcast is how in the world did you end up in Cincinnati opening up an olive store, but not just selling olive oil, but creating an experience in teaching. Obviously, you have a passion behind this plant, I guess you'd say. So tell us a little bit about how did this all start? What was the beginning?
Probably the biggest, there's been several things, but probably the biggest trigger was a vacation that I had with my family to Italy back in probably 2006, I believe. And I didn't know it at the time, but my husband was trying to see how the family did outside of the country because he was considering an international assignment for work. So I didn't know it was a test, but I just thought it was a nice vacation. But
if you only knew, now you know what your whole life changed.
So, but we were in Italy, and one of the evenings there was a dinner at a winemaker's farm or his house, traditional Italian dinner. And in Italy, when they have the farms with the he called it a what do you call it? He called it a wine yard and not a vineyard. So at the wine yard, they have all their grapes growing in a little section, and then they have a section of olive trees, and then more grape arbors, and then more olive trees. And they do that to keep diseases or funguses from getting the grapes. The olive trees stop it. So they might lose a section, but they're not going to lose their whole vineyard. So, but for me, it was fresh olive oil that night at the table. The wines were exquisite, but the olive oil blew me away because being a housewife back here in Ohio, I had olive oil in my pantry and I always cooked with it because I kind of heard it was like a healthier fat. And I even bought light olive oil because back then I didn't know the difference, but that's just a bottle with pretty much canola oil in it. So there's no such thing as a light olive oil. So, but I didn't know that. And when I tasted that olive oil at that table, I was just amazed at the flavor and the taste. Kind of probably for some of you, when we tasted the fresh olive oil here earlier, there's just a big difference between what you may be used to using from before and what we have here. So it's that freshness. It just blew me away. And then as the time went on and I started looking into more of the health benefits associated with olive oil, it kind of really bothered me when I saw how many health benefits were contained in olive oil, yet what we are getting commercially, we don't know how old it is, we don't know this, but what you can know is that the things that are good for you are already out of that bottle. So I just felt really awful that people just were buying it thinking they're getting something that's healthy for them when that may not be the case. And just over time, thought, heck, life's too short to eat bad olive oil, and people in Cincinnati deserve to get some good olive oil too. So it led to a business starting.
Okay, that's fascinating, but it
took a lot more.
Yeah, so to taste the olive oil, to learn all the benefits that we really weren't educated and aware of, but then what was the catalyst to it being a business? Because if I understand correctly, you were in a corporate job. You had a traditional 9-to-5 job.
Well, when I was right out of college, I worked for Dun & Bradstreet selling credit information services to small businesses. So it kind of, I always thought that was so neat, having your own little small business. So as my young 20-something, newly graduated college business person was thinking, oh, someday I want to have my own business because this is really neat. And so I think I just always had that in the back of my head. And then after I was in that career for 5 or 6 years, I started becoming a pharmaceutical rep. And I think that had a lot to do with it because I sold nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which has a lot to do with understanding olive oil and what's in olive oil and how it works, because I had to learn all that about the drugs that I was representing and understood the whole inflammatory cascade. And so when I started learning about olive oil, it was like light bulbs going off in my head because it's like, oh my gosh, this is a natural way of doing this. It's not going to bother people's gut and not have to go through their kidneys and their liver to get absorbed into their bloodstream. It's just a natural, it's a nutraceutical, not a pharmaceutical. So that really excited me. So, all those things got me going, and then noticed businesses, not in Cincinnati, but in other parts of the country on vacation, that were starting to have this kind of a concept. And so I thought, well, shoot, if they could do it somewhere else, could certainly do it here too. But at that time, I had stopped being a pharmaceutical rep and was at home taking care of my kids. And so it was like, well, can I run a business? What do I know about running a business? I don't know any of this. And so that's when I started up with Bad Girl Ventures, which is what Aviatra used to be known as. And what they do is they help women to kind of test the waters, see if their concept or their idea for a business is viable, if it makes any sense. And then so you kind of submit what you're thinking to them, and then they picked like 10 people that they thought had ideas that might work. And then we were accepted to be finalists in that competition in 2012, and that it just kind of took off from then, because that was February of 2012, and we finished that program in May and opened the doors to this place right here in September of that year. So
Oh, wow. So you
went fast.
started the first Aviator class with just an idea.
Yes.
Wow. Had you incorporated olive oil into your life? Had you seen any of the health benefits?
No, not until I really started this business, because there wasn't any place that I knew of back then where I could get a high quality olive oil. So it was just starting when I had the business here, eating tons of olive oil because it was easy to get to.
And so I'm guessing that your family is like all
Right.
they're
Yeah.
like
It's helped.
nice and saturated with olive oil.
Yeah. And it's lowered my husband's cholesterol on some tests. Mine's good when I go. So yeah. So it's a nice thing to see that.
And another thing I would love to share with our listeners is when we were tasting the olive oil, I always think of dipping bread or, but we actually drank it.
Right.
That was really interesting.
You really can't taste the nuances of an olive oil if you're tasting bread, if you dip bread in it. I mean, if that's the only way they're going to do it, I let them do it. But really, if you want to taste a true olive oil and get the true flavors out of it, you really need to do it straight up. And when you're doing that, you should get like a little sensation in the back of your throat, a little tickling, prickling, coughing sensation. And that feeling is the presence of something called oleocanthal, which is one of the biophenols in olive oil that's responsible for that anti-inflammatory effect. So if you don't have that feeling, then your olive oil doesn't have those healthy properties in it that you want it to have. But if you're dipping bread or putting that olive oil over a salad, you can't sense that. So it's by tasting it straight up that you sense that healthy property in there.
Yeah. So, and for our listeners, Melanie shared that when you have a little cough at the end, it means the olive oil is good. So we're all tasting it.
Coughing.
So it's really good olive oil. Yeah. So on the She Made It podcast, we focus often on how a woman's creative passion or like for you, I almost feel like there was this mission or movement behind the olive oil being your business. I love how you talk about, years ago you had this little prompting that there was something you were to be doing in the small business sector, and then the irony of the pharmaceuticals being what you sold, and now you're selling.
I kind of look at them as kind of like God winks, because sometimes you don't see the direction that God is pointing you in, but then when you look back, sometimes you see these little God winks, like, you're a pharmaceutical rep selling this stuff, but there was a purpose in that in your life that led to something else. It happens all the time, but it's only in hindsight that you see those things.
Yeah, but the ability to connect those dots and then taking the big leap into entrepreneurship is huge.
It is.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. So because some people in the room have businesses, some don't have any desire to have a business, but I think we all can understand what it feels like to make that big leap to something unknown, to something new. What would you say was the biggest challenge for you to start something brand new, completely outside of anything you had been doing?
Well, I mean, it was scary, just had no experience running a business. So just that first leap of doing all the things, sometimes when I started Bad Girl Ventures, I kind of thought, well, at some point somebody's going to say, that's not a good idea. Like it was going to just point out that this was really silly or something. But as it progressed and as we went on with the class, doors just kept opening. So then it just kind of seemed like, well, this is probably meant to be.
And literally a door opened.
Yeah, but it was just strange. Like something would happen and all of a sudden that piece to the puzzle was put in place. And then, we couldn't find a place. And then all of a sudden the business that was here closed. And all of a sudden this was a perfect spot for us. And so it was just really kind of strange. But
you have to trust.
You do. You have to trust. You have to be willing to take that step, because if you're not willing to do that, nothing's ever going to happen. So I don't know. I think sometimes it's just being willing to do it afraid, because you can't. There's no assurances. You don't know what's going to happen. And all along the way, there's been so many things, like opening a second location. That was pretty scary. Opening a third location, that was really scary. I had sublet space here to a gentleman that ran a little wine shop, and then all of a sudden he just closed. Well, when you're running a retail store, every little piece of the space has to generate income, and all of a sudden that space is empty. So then what are you going to do? So you have to take a leap of faith, and I decided to open my own wine shop. So it just never stops, but you just have to keep rolling with it.
So you're very, is it optimism? Is it not thinking too far ahead? Is it just trusting your gut? Because that, you make it sound very easy.
No, it's not. And you can't let yourself worry about everything. You just have to just take everything one day at a time. And, things happen all the time. And you just like when the wine shop closed, that wasn't a good thing, but you just have to roll with it. And the biggest thing that I think I've learned is that when something happens, like that chapter closes, be open, because something else is going to open up. I just find that things are just, when those kinds of things happen, something else kind of lays itself out. But I got to be open to it. Like if I'm so worried and bogged down about, oh my gosh, my wine shop closed, then I'm not going to see these wonderful other things that are out there that I can make happen. So you have to be open and not let yourself get bogged down, I guess, and worry, which sometimes is really hard. Mm-hmm. But you have to stay open.
So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. So when I think of, I kind of hear two passions or two sort of God winks. I love that. One is the olive oil, and the other is the business. Would you say one is more of a passion than the other? How do they fit together? Your passion and then how you put it into a business?
Yeah. The business is kind of like having a baby, so it's your baby, and you
have
love,
three of them now.
How you are without your kids. You just love your kids and you do anything for them. So the store is kind of like that to me. It's like something, but the olive oil is the vehicle for that. And the olive oil and the vinegars too in that regard. It's since I started in it, and I've learned so much more about the health benefits, and taking classes at the University of California, Davis, to get my olive oil certification and all that. And then also I had a breast cancer diagnosis, and so learning more about the role that olive oil plays in health and fighting cancers and things like that, it just added to my passionate feeling about those health benefits. And what I feel my biggest role here is, and how I get my business to grow, is by going out and educating people on those health benefits, because I feel like that's the biggest thing I can do to, number one, help other people, because I want my business to help other people, but also to spread that word, because a lot of people just think that what's available commercially is the best they can get. And I don't want that for people. I want people to get something that's really good for them, that will do something for their health. Mm-hmm. So I think those two things play into each other. I think it's my passion about those health benefits that helps me to help other people, and that in turn helps my business grow. Mm-hmm.
So why the name Spicy Olive? Where did that come from?
One day we were just kicking names around, and we do sell spices, so it doesn't necessarily have to do with spicy, although we do have spicy olive oils, but we sell some spices. And so I just thought spicy olive was fun. It was catchy. People would like it. So that's kind of where it came from. We were just
Yeah,
came up
I
with
love
it one
it.
day. I loved it. Once it stuck, I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but just a little aside on that one. When I do a lot of cooking demos and things on TV to help promote the business, and so I took one of my daughters up there, and the TV guy that was with me on the demo said, "So where'd that name come from?" And my daughter was there, and she's like, "Well, I'd like to think I had something to do with it because I'm really spicy." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh."
That's awesome.
I know. You should have seen his face. He was like,
What do I do with that question, that answer?
I don't know what to
That's
say to that
awesome.
one.
Yeah, so to kind of like wrap up our conversation today, 2 quick questions. They may be not easy to answer quickly, but what inspires you? And the second one is, if someone is looking, a woman in particular is looking to transition into something that either there have been, little winks along the way, or they just feel called towards something. Maybe it's a business, maybe it's just a creative passion. So I guess what inspires you, and what would you say to them, to that woman?
What inspires me? I guess my faith keeps me going, and my family. Those things are very important to me. So, and they strengthen me. So I keep going because it is tough. A lot of days are really tough, in business. And then for other people, I just think you got to be willing and don't sell yourself short because, in starting this out, I just thought there's no way I could do something like this because I had been home taking care of kids for like 12 years, and I just didn't think that I knew what I needed to do to run a business, and I just wasn't confident about it. So trust yourself, trust your instincts. I think as women, we sell ourselves short maybe a little bit too much and don't give ourselves credit for what we're capable of or what we really do know. And we know a lot. And you know what? It's not the end of the world if you go out and try something and it doesn't work out, because that's how we grow and learn too. And it's probably worthwhile, have that attitude and try things. Because if it does work out, just think what you could end up doing and having and everything. So it's worth the try.
Yeah, thank you, Melanie. Very inspiring, very informative. I just really love the reminder to pay attention and connect the dots. And I love how you called it God winks.
Yeah.
But that every step forward, doors open, even if doors are closing around you, just to trust and keep moving. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Well,
so
thank
much,
you.
Elle.
Let's
I really
give Melanie a big
appreciate the
round of
exposure.
applause. I do want to give you the opportunity to ask Melanie any questions, since you heard a little bit more of the personal journey.
I do have one question.
Yes.
You started out the conversation with, you went to Italy with your husband, not realizing,
Yeah.
it was sort of an interview for what could be.
Yeah. We moved to China for
I was gonna
2.5
say.
years.
Did you not? Did you flunk out? And you still like the olive oil or what?
Oh, that is
Yeah.
funny. So the international test, did she flunk?
Yes,
No.
please.
No, we ended up moving to China for 2.5 years.
Did they have olive oil in China?
No. They had, what did they have? It was terrible. What was it? I can't remember what it was. Rapeseed oil or some kind of, they used some weird kind of oil.
yeah.
And
So that stuck with you all that time?
I thought about it all that time. And then coming back from China, the kids were older. The oldest one was going off to college. The middle one was starting to drive, so I wasn't needed quite as much. And life in China was pretty exciting. We traveled a lot. We did a lot of fun things with friends. And so I was like, and my mom had just passed away too when we came back from China, so that was really hard. So I was bored and really needed an outlet, so I went for it.
I just love how you were able to trust those little messages along the way, and like had 2 years before you, because I keep waiting for the heavens to open up and say, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
That never happens.
It never happens.
They're very subtle, and if you don't pay attention, you don't even notice them.
Hey, it's Clara again. Before we go, I just wanted to tell you that if you're interested in coming to a live She Made It event in Cincinnati, you can follow @LZim on Instagram and stay up to date. Also, I just wanted to remind you again about the free discovery call that you can schedule with Elle by going to calendly.com/LZimmerman. And last thing, if you're interested in the spicy olive or even want to order online, just go to thespicyolive.com. There's a button that says shop in the upper right-hand corner. You will not regret it. Their olive oils and vinegars are amazing. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode, and we'll talk to you next time.
I'm so grateful you joined us for today's episode. I bet you're here because you know there's something more for your life. Whether you're moving into something creative or letting go in order to take that next creative step, I have something for you. My free guide to graceful transitions. You can find it at lzimmerman.com/transitions. And remember, if she made it, you can too.